Hi, I'm Sabrina. I was spending the holidays in Colorado with my friend Molly and convinced her to climb the highest mountain there. When we came to the mountain, we noticed a van nearby. It had the logo of a well-known beauty company on it. It couldn't be. I'd always dreamed of working for them. Molly and I looked like models, and we worked part-time starring in small projects. We forgot all about climbing and came closer. A photographer behind the van was taking pictures of a girl against the background of the mountains. When they were done, I plucked up the courage and approached them. Molly and I introduced ourselves and said that it was our dream to work for their company. I showed him my resume and the photographer liked it. "You need to talk to our director. Here's his business card. Tell him Frank sent you." Damn, my phone had run out of battery, so I used Molly's. I was terribly worried, but the director did not pick up. We decided he was probably busy and decided to text him. I sent him a message and attached links to our resumes. The next day, we came back home from Colorado. I had a good feeling and was hoping to get my dream job soon. One day, as I was coming from college, I suddenly heard screams. I headed towards them and saw a little boy. He was sitting on the parapet of a high-rise building and crying. A crowd had gathered below. Someone had called the police and firefighters. It was clear that a lot of time had passed before they arrived, and I decided to act. I dropped my bag and climbed up the fire escape. I wasn't afraid of heights. Climbing was, after all, my hobby. The people in the crowd gasped and shouted words of support. I climbed up to the boy, carefully helped him get off the parapet, dragged him to the stairs, and asked him what he was doing there. The boy told me he had been sitting on a balcony where the door had slammed shut. He had tried to get to his neighbors, but he got scared and stopped halfway. "We need to go down. Hold on to me and don't worry." The boy was crying, but I managed to calm him down. We carefully got down the stairs, and everyone began to applaud us. Soon the cops came. They wanted to ask me about the boy, but Molly called me. "I got a call from the company. Come here." She sent me a cafe address. I slipped away from the police and rushed there. Hooray, they called us back. I was about to get the job of my dreams. I saw Molly there. She looked very satisfied. I sat down and demanded she tell me everything. I was smiling happily, but when Molly started talking, the smile slowly slipped off my face. The beauty company got really interested in one of us. In Molly, that is. They hired her, and she had already signed a contract. While my friend was telling me that she would soon move to a neighboring state for work, I sat there speechless. All my dreams had been crushed. On the one hand, I was happy for Molly, but on the other, I felt very sorry for myself. When I got home, I fell off the bed and spent the whole night crying. The next day, I decided to watch YouTube to get my mind off things. That's when I accidentally came across a video of myself rescuing that boy. Someone had filmed it and posted it online. You could clearly see my long hair that I was very proud of in it. Everyone in the comments was praising me for my beauty and courage, but even that didn't cheer me up. I felt down for several weeks, but I still didn't give up and sent my resume to other companies. Molly threw herself into her new job, and we didn't see each other, but one day she called me and invited me to that cafe again. On the way there, I felt a sense of déjà vu. Deep down, I was hoping for a miracle, and I got one. The company I work for is looking for a new model. I showed them your pictures again and they like them. If you haven't changed your mind, you can come tomorrow. One word of advice though, you should agree to all the conditions right away. If you sign a contract, you will have to work very hard. What? Did I hear that right? I didn't care about any conditions. I was ready to work day and night to get into that company. Molly, thank you. You can't imagine how grateful I am. The next day, I came to the right address and the casting director asked if I knew about the conditions. I told him that I agreed to everything. When he gave me the agreement, I signed it without looking. It was the best moment of my life. A couple of days later, I was told that I had to go to another state, as they would be filming the project I had agreed to participate in for a whole month there. It was only then that it dawned upon me that I would have to drop out of college for the job. I like studying, but the modeling career meant more to me. When I came to the dean, he tried to dissuade me. "Sabrina, you are one of our best students. You can always drop out later. I advise you to simply become a part-time student." After giving it a little thought, I agreed. The beauty company rented an apartment for me in the center of the new city, and it was luxurious. The day before the photo shoot, they brought me to a stylist. I was looking forward to how beautiful they would make me look. However, when I sat down, the stylist gave me a weird look and turned to the manager. "Are you sure this is the girl? She has such beautiful hair." Yes, that's her. Sabrina was the one who agreed to all the conditions. Their talk made me a little worried, but I decided to trust the professionals and not worry about anything. While the stylist was working on my hair, I was looking through my phone. All of a sudden, I noticed long strands of hair falling to the floor. I was horrified. Did they want to cut my hair short? I didn't want that. I'd been growing it out and taking good care of it for so many years, but it was too late to back out. I sat with my eyes closed. I finally opened them and it was a nightmare. The person in the mirror didn't look like me. My hair had been cut so short it looked like I was bald. I threw a fit. The stylist calmed me down and the manager gave me a glass of water. "You knew about the conditions, didn't you? Nobody warned me about this." The manager brought a copy of my contract and pointed at the first point. It said that the model agreed to any changes in their appearance, including getting a haircut. Damn, why was I so unlucky? I realized that it was my own fault and I should have read what I had signed, but that didn't make me feel any better. When I came back to my apartment, I immediately ordered a wig online. Sitting on my bed, I looked at a photo of myself with long hair and cried. I wanted to talk to someone, so I called Molly. She comforted me and said she would come the next day too. We would both be starring in the project. The wig was delivered a couple of days later. The next day, I had to go to work in a jacket with a deep hood. To say that I didn't want people to see me would be to say nothing. When I walked in, Molly was already in the pavilion. I felt very ugly compared to her and the other models there. I was so upset I couldn't relax and did poorly. At the end of the photo shoot, the director was dissatisfied. "Great job, everyone, except for you, Sabrina. We'll replace you if you don't get a grip." When we were done, Molly tried to cheer me up and then told me some good news. She had been given a big bonus, and she showed me her new iPhone and bag. I felt like a complete failure while congratulating her. I had always wanted to work in that company, but the price turned out to be too high. The wig was delivered in the evening. I immediately put it on and even went to bed wearing it. Early in the morning, I had another photo shoot planned, this time outside. When I arrived, it turned out that Frank would be my photographer. What a surprise! He recognized me and immediately was very surprised. Trying for a new look? I was close to tears when I took off my wig and showed him my new look in all its glory. Frank stared at me and even opened his mouth in surprise. My head suddenly started itching. I looked in the mirror and realized that the skin on my head had turned red and started to peel off. It was probably an allergic reaction to the wig. I felt so horrified I had a nervous breakdown. I ran away and sat on a bench, crying. I'd practically dropped out of college and moved to another city, all for nothing. It was ugly. Someone suddenly put a hand on my shoulder. I turned around and saw Frank. He sat down next to me. Having no hair is not the end of the world. On the contrary, you now stand out among the other models. You have perfect facial features and head shape. Such a haircut wouldn't look good on anyone else, but you are still beautiful. After searching the internet, he showed me examples of other models who have shaved their heads for the sake of photo shoots. Frank assured me that it was a brave and professional thing to do. Models who were ready to try any looks were always sought after and respected. His words calmed me down a little. I gathered my thoughts and went back to the photo shoot. Frank airbrushed the allergy on my head, and the results pleasantly surprised me. The director was satisfied as well. I also continued to study part-time. The dean had been right. College was my safety net, and I shouldn't have tried to drop out. One day, during a photo shoot, the director came to the pavilion. Frank showed him the most successful photos of me. "See? I did recommend a cool model after all. I saw how talented she was all the way back in Colorado." The director looked at him blankly. "Colorado? You haven't recommended her to me." They tried to understand what had happened, and it turned out that the director had never received my resume. How could it be? After all, I had sent it from Molly's phone. Maybe there had been some sort of glitch? When I mentioned Molly, Frank told me something else. It turned out that their beauty company hadn't been able to find a model who would agree to cut her hair for a long time. They promised their employees that whoever found one would get a large bonus. I was shocked. Had Molly set me up? She had known that my hair would be cut and hadn't said anything about it on purpose. And then, she had boasted about her brand new bag and iPhone. It was hard to believe because Molly was my friend. I called her and suggested we meet to get to the bottom of it. When we saw each other, I asked her directly about everything. I expected Molly to have an explanation, but she didn't even deny it. Hair was your best feature. I was afraid the company would choose you. As for your resume, I just deleted the message and the director never read it. Nothing personal, it's just business. Molly grinned as she left. I have a great future ahead of me, and you will take part in a couple of photo shoots and stay a nobody. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Turned out I didn't know my friend at all, or rather my former friend. At first I fell apart, but then I quickly pulled myself back together. I would show everyone what I was capable of and stick it to Molly. We often met at photo shoots. She kept making fun of me. The other girls were no better. The modeling business turned out to be tough, but Frank looked out for me. One day he invited me to a bar and convinced me to go there looking like this. Before that, I had worn the second wig I'd ordered online everywhere. I was terribly worried about other people's reactions, but Frank's friends gave me a lot of compliments. I felt much more confident after that. One day, the director announced that a very large brand had commissioned a photo shoot. Its representative, Mr. Clark, was going to personally attend the casting of models. And you know where the casting was supposed to take place? In my hometown. Mr. Clark lived there too. All the models were very excited. Everyone dreamed of being chosen. Starring in a photo shoot for such a big brand was a golden ticket to the world of fashion. Everyone was terribly nervous during the casting. Frank was taking pictures of all the models while Mr. Clark watched. He turned out to be terribly picky. It felt like he didn't like anyone at all. Molly did everything to be noticed. She posed like never before, smiled, and even winked at Mr. Clark, but he wasn't impressed. This model is definitely not the one we're looking for. Next. Molly burst into tears, but no one comforted her. Mr. Clark looked at me a little longer than the others, but he didn't say anything. At the end of the photo shoot, he rejected all the models. Can you imagine? All of them. But the director convinced him to take the photos Frank had taken and think it over until the next day. I came home upset. I was lying on the bed, playing on my phone and eating diet sushi. All of a sudden, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I recognized Mr. Clark by his voice. He said we needed to meet and gave me an address. I searched it and realized there was an apartment building there. Seriously? Had Mr. Clark invited me to his home? Why hadn't he chosen a neutral place for this conversation? Bad thoughts immediately popped into my head. It was a little weird, but I decided to go anyway. The area where he lived seemed familiar to me. A couple of months ago, I had saved a boy there. When I got to the right floor, I rang the doorbell, and Mr. Clark immediately opened the door. He didn't look as angry and annoyed as he had during the photo shoot. Smiling, he invited me in. His behavior seemed suspicious to me. Why was he acting so friendly all of a sudden? When I walked into the living room, I froze on the spot. On the sofa was that boy. The photos of me taken that day were spread out on the table in front of him. Sabrina, this is my son Tom. What? His son? What a coincidence. Mr. Clark took out his phone and showed me a video of myself climbing a fire escape. Is this you? I nodded, dumbfounded. Tom suddenly jumped up from his seat, ran up to me and hugged me. Dad, I told you. I immediately recognized her in the pictures. Mr. Clark offered me coffee and money as a thank you for saving his son. I drank the coffee, but of course I didn't take the money. The next day, the director gathered all the girls and announced the brand's decisions. Mr. Clark had chosen a model, and it turned out to be me. Pinch me. Was I dreaming? Molly turned green with envy, and I was over the moon. Mr. Clark had found a way to thank me after all. The story of Tom's rescue inspired Frank to do an original photo shoot. He told the brand about his idea and the management approved it. We climbed up high to take the photos. The result was amazing. My modeling career took off after that. My hair is gradually growing back and I boldly try different looks. I've become very famous, but I'm still not dropping out of college. Frank and I are still friends, and we often work together. Molly was kicked out of the beauty company. She turned out to be a mediocre model with quite a volatile temperament. The most important thing is that I realized that it doesn't matter how you look. What's important is how you feel inside. Do you like to experiment with your appearance? Tell us in the comments down below.